If you're in the consumer goods space, you know that growth is the name of the game. It's everything, right? Our strategies, our media spend, our big quarterly reports, it all boils down to a handful of key performance indicators. But what if that number one metric you lean on, the one you report up to the board, isn't just incomplete? What if it's actually pointing you in the wrong direction?
So I really want you to ask yourself this. Is your main growth KPI giving you a false sense of security? Because today, we're not just going to poke holes in it. We're going to talk about a much more powerful metric that you might be completely overlooking. So, first up, let's talk about the king of all metrics, new to brand. We have to understand why NTB became the gold standard in the first place.
And look, its value is pretty clear. NTB is a fantastic proxy for customer acquisition. It's a really solid benchmark for figuring out how efficient your media spend is. And, it even tells you when you've successfully won back a shopper who might have left you for a competitor. For day-to-day tactical campaign stuff, it is undeniably useful. No question. But, and this is where things get really interesting for us as strategists, relying only on NTB, well, it's kind of like driving a car while only staring at the speedometer. You're missing the horizon. You're not seeing the road ahead. And this creates some major blind spots that can seriously limit your long-term growth. So, blind spot number one? I call it the revolving door problem. See, when you win back a lapsed buyer, someone who maybe switched to a competitor a few years ago, your NTB metric counts them as new. But are they really? You haven't actually grown the market, you've just clawed back some old territory. It's not truly incremental. And then there's the second problem, which is a structural flaw with the metric itself. It's completely dependent on the retailer's look-back window. So if their data only looks back 12, maybe 24 months, anyone who bought your product before that suddenly looks new, even if they've been buying in the category for a decade. The data basically has a built-in expiration date on its own reliability. And this brings us to the biggest issue with an NTB-only view. The metric is fantastic at showing that you're stealing share from a competitor. It's a great brand switching signal, but it tells you absolutely nothing about whether the entire category, the whole pie, is actually getting bigger. You could be winning the battle for a bigger slice while the pie itself is shrinking. So, if new to brand is just about reslicing that pie, how do we actually grow the pie? Well, this is where a much more powerful metric enters the picture, new to category, or NTC. This, right here, is the real key to unlocking and measuring true, incremental demand. So what exactly is it? It's simple, but honestly, it's pretty profound. NTC identifies shoppers who are making their very first purchase in the entire category. We're not talking about someone who's new to your brand of yogurt. We're talking about someone who has never bought yogurt, period. This is market expansion in its absolute purest form. Let's just put them side by side. NTB is all about tactics. It shows you those share shifts. NTC, on the other hand, is all about strategy. It shows you true market expansion. And yeah, NTB data is everywhere. It's easy to get. Finding clean NTC data is much, much harder. But believe me, its value for your long-term growth strategy is just exponentially higher. This is the fundamental mindset shift we have to make. Category growth is always going to be a more powerful and sustainable strategy than just stealing share from your neighbor. The goal isn't just to get a bigger slice of the existing pie, it's to bake a bigger one for everyone and make sure you get the first piece. Okay, so right about now, you're probably thinking, this all sounds great, but my retail partners definitely don't give me clean NTC data. And you know what? You're right. They usually don't. But that doesn't mean you're flying blind. You can absolutely start finding the signals. So, here's how your team can start sniffing out these NTC signals like today. First, dive into generic search trends. Are people searching for oat milk more than they're searching for specific brands? That's a huge signal of new demand bubbling up. Second, work with your data partners to isolate first-time baskets. Find those shoppers who are buying into your category for the very first time. And third, track your on-ramp products. You know the ones, your trial packs, your starter kits. These are the gateway for new buyers into your category. So how do we pull this all together? Look, this isn't about throwing out NBT. Not at all. It's about building a smarter, more balanced growth playbook that uses both of these metrics for what they do best. Here's your 4-step playbook. 1. Keep using NTB for what it's amazing at, tactical media benchmarking. 2. Layer on those NTC proxies, like trial pack sales, to get a real strategic read on growth. 3. Build a crystal clear journey to trade these new shoppers up to your core products. And 4. Start the conversation. Push your retail partners for better, more standardized NTC reporting. The whole industry needs it. So I'll leave you with this challenge. In your very next team meeting, I want you to look past the usual new-to-brand numbers and ask your team one simple question. How are we finding and winning the shoppers who are entirely new to category? Because the answer to that question, well, that's where your real, sustainable future growth is hiding. So I'll leave you with this challenge. In your very next team meeting, I want you to look past the usual new-to-brand numbers and ask your team one simple question. How are we finding and winning the shoppers who are entirely new to category? Because the answer to that question, well, that's where your real, sustainable future growth is hiding.